Do do do. Josh review. Yeah.
Hello, welcome to another album review with me, Joshua Smith, and today we'll be looking at the album Bridge Over Troubled Water by Simon and Garfunkel. It was released on January 26th of 1970. A little chart information about it. It peaked at number 1 on the US Billboard 200, and it has gone 8 times platinum, selling over 8 million copies. It was released on the label Columbia Records, and the singles are The Boxer, Bridge Over Troubled Water, the title track, Cecilia, and El Condor Pasa, or If I Could. So, let's get this started. Track number 1 is the title track, Bridge Over Troubled Water. The first track on the album is widely regarded as the duo's best work, with this being their final album together. It's quite a way to go out. It's a song about encouragement, adding a mix of slow piano rock with gospel. On this track, Paul Simon shows his true soul-singing chops, and interestingly enough, originally Paul wanted Art to sing the lead part, but declined, feeling that Paul was better for it. It incorporates the wall of sound technique made popular by producer Phil Spector. As the song builds up, it becomes all the more emotional, almost bringing a tear to the listener's eye. It's perhaps one of the most beautiful songs ever written, as it talks about lending a helping hand to your friend when they're in need. A great song with a great message. Track number 2 is El Condor Pasa, or If I Could. Even though this track has a Spanish title, there is no Spanish to be heard on this track. The only thing on this track that would connect to the title is its instrumentals, its instrumentation, as it has a distinct mariachi style to it, like an old western type of song. It's about wanting to be bigger and better than we are, being a hammer as opposed to a nail, being a sparrow as opposed to a snail, etc. It's very unique in its style, and it has a great sense of that folk rock style that the duo was so well known for. Track number 3 is Cecilia. Starting off with some strong and driving percussion instrumentals, this folk track is typically about this whore named Cecilia, who is breaking their heart, even going as far as replacing them in bed as soon as they come back from simply washing their face after making love. However, near the end, they declare jubilation, she loves me again, rejoicing at the fact that this woman who has done them such wrong loves them once again. This track has a bit of a campfire sound to it, with hand claps and acoustic guitar to accompany it all. A very nice listen indeed. Number 4 is Keep the Customer Satisfied. A nice country rock track with some great harmonies between the guys, yet the subject matter is a little depressing, as it's about them trying to keep people satisfied, yet, they get a whole bunch of crap from everybody, no matter where they go. They were growing tired of touring, especially Paul. One really cool thing that makes this more than just a country rock track is its use of blaring horns, making it half country rock, half pop. If this track doesn't make you want to keep listening to this album, I don't know what will. Track number 5 is So Long, Frank Lloyd Wright. This slow folk rock / baroque pop track has a very interesting subject matter and a very interesting backstory. Apparently, Paul Simon was asked to write a song about the death of the famous architect Frank Lloyd Wright. However, Paul has stated that he wrote the song not even knowing who Frank Lloyd Wright was. Aside from that, another widely received thought is that the song is about Art Garfunkel, who was studying to become an architect at the time, and being that the duo broke up after this album was made, it was like Paul was saying goodbye to his best friend and partner. In that way, it's very, very sad, but the instrumentals are kept to a minimum, minus the very light orchestra in the background, as well as the flute solos and interludes. It's very gorgeous, but very ominous at the same time. Track number 6 is The Boxer. A nice, light folk rock track with some country influences, with the guitar and the bass harmonica being the main instruments. The drum part is extremely limited. The lyrics reflect how Paul Simon was feeling at the time. He felt lonely and felt people were spreading false truths about him. It builds up to being something quite powerful near the end, as the refrain of lie, 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 perhaps referring to those lies people were spreading that I just mentioned. It's Paul sharing his heart and soul with the listeners, letting people know how he was truly feeling at the time. Track number 7 is Baby Driver. Another country-tinged folk rock track that's more upbeat than the last few. This track talks about Paul Simon's family and his childhood, and how he was called a baby driver, and makes references to sex while his parents were out of the house. It's a great track to dance to, and even modulates up a key. Near the end of the track, we hear a race car driving and an announcer declaring him the champion. Perhaps Paul had an obsession with race cars as a young boy. Track number 8 is The Only Living Boy in New York. A slow ballad, the style reflects the intro / title track more than anything else. From what I can gather from the lyrics, it's another track about Paul Simon feeling lonely, mainly because Art Garfunkel going to Mexico to film the movie Catch-22, leaving Paul behind to write the entirety of the album, making him feel like the only living boy in New York. On this track, Art is referred to as Tom, making reference to what they were originally called Tom and Jerry. Paul is talking to Art, telling him how he feels, telling him to be honest with himself. At the end, it's incredibly gorgeous, as it has the duo harmonizing together with echo effects. It's an absolutely gorgeous, beautiful track. Number 9 is Why Don't You Write Me? Yet another country rock track, and yet another track about Paul's loneliness with Art being gone. It would appear as though he is asking Art to write to him in his absence. What's interesting about this track is that it's infused with jazz, island, and R&B styles, making it incredibly unique and much different from how it initially started out, with mainly having acoustic guitar and piano. It features some rapid, soulful singing by Paul, as well as showing off his falsetto abilities. Track number 10 is Bye Bye Love. This track is actually a live recording of the duo in Iowa. It has that typical folk rock feel, with the audience clapping along every step of the way. It's basically about feeling heartbroken after a breakup, as they're saying, bye bye to love and bye bye to happiness, in turn saying hello to loneliness. It's almost like they're saying goodbye to the world as the duo known as Simon and Garfunkel. Track number 11 is the Song for the Asking. The final track on the album is in 3/4 time and contains such a beautiful melody with the instrumentals kept rather simple, but very to the point. Paul is saying that this is the song he's wanted to share all along, and if you ask him to, he'll play it for you. It's only about a minute and a half long, but it doesn't need to be any longer than that to to get the message across. It's a wonderful way to end the album, and it's for the final album of one of the greatest acts in pop and folk music. Overall, this beautiful work of art was full of diverse, mystifying, and interesting styles of music, complete with country rock, folk rock, gospel, island, jazz, blues, and R&B. I can't recommend this album enough to you. Even though it was made during a difficult period for the group, especially Paul Simon, who was left alone to write pretty much the whole thing, it's still a beautiful album all the same. It's hard to get past Simon pouring out his depression and sadness and loneliness to all of us, but that makes it all the more, emotional and easier to understand, ultimately making it a better album. Anyways, thank you for joining me on this another review, and if you want a review of any song or album that you like or may suggest to be reviewed, just leave a comment down below, and I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. Subscribe, like, whatever. Thank you for joining me, and so long.